Welcome to this explainer. I am so incredibly pumped to have you here today because we're going to completely shatter how you view a totally normal everyday habit. Think about it. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you're going to walk into a room, flip a switch, and bam, instantly, light just floods the space. And you probably won't even think twice about it, right? It's just so mundane, so routine, it barely even registers. But the actual truth hiding behind that simple little action, it is absolutely staggering. So let's really get into this. Look at the massive, unbelievable contrast between our modern, brightly lit reality and, well, absolute pitch black darkness. Because here is the shocking truth of it all. For 99.9% of human history, that pitch black darkness was our only reality. When the sun set, the world just went completely dark. I mean, we're talking about not even being able to see your own hand in front of your face. For over 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors spent roughly half their entire lives in near total darkness. No light bulbs, obviously, but they didn't even have candles for the vast majority of that time. Just a black sky, the stars, and a totally profoundly different human experience. Section 1. Before the light switch. So what did they actually do for all those dark, terrifying hours before the mastery of fire? Well, before fire, we were just like every other primate out there. Sun goes down, you find a tree or a really good hiding spot, and you stay perfectly, completely still. Moving at night basically meant becoming a midnight snack, because our eyes are just terrible in the dark compared to the predators hunting us. But then we get fire. And the number 30 is absolutely crucial here. Once we finally harnessed it, a campfire created a literal, absolute circle of safety exactly 30 feet in diameter. Inside that 30-foot circle, predators like leopards, wolves, hyenas, they wouldn't dare come close. Outside that circle, you die. And actually, anthropologists who study modern hunter-gatherer groups point out that even today, just wandering away from the fire at night massively spikes your chances of a fatal predator attack. Moving right along to Section 2, how fire changed us. Because it didn't just keep us safe, it completely restructured our day. The earliest solid proof we have of human-controlled fire is from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa right around 1 million years ago. And it didn't just provide warmth. Before fire, your useful day was done at sunset. Period. Maybe 12 hours in the summer, maybe as few as 8 in the winter. Inventing fire literally bolted 2 to 4 highly usable hours onto every single human day. And the impact that had on how we communicate is mind-blowing. Anthropologist Polly Wisner spent years recording conversations among the Kalahari Bushmen, who live very close to our original human lifestyle. And she found that during the day, a massive 80% of their conversation is just strictly practical. Who's hunting where, which plants are ready, it's all logistics. Daytime talk is literally just work. But watch what happens the second that sun goes down. At night, sitting around that fire, boom, 81% of those conversations completely flip into stories. We're talking tales of distant places, wild adventures, myths about how the world started, and jokes that get the whole camp laughing. Wisner actually argued that this exact campfire conversation is where human culture itself was born. It was our original theater, our original classroom, and our original church. It was the first time we could sit back and imagine things that didn't even exist yet. Section 3, the lost second sleep. Now, the night wasn't just about telling stories around a fire. There was a monumental shift in how we actually slept. Back in 2001, historian Roger Eckerch published this paper that completely upended everything we thought we knew about sleep science. He spent 16 years digging through historical records, and he found something that changes the whole game. Get this. Before the industrial age, people did not sleep in one big, continuous 8-hour block. That is a totally modern invention. What they actually did was go to bed shortly after sunset for a first sleep of about 4 hours. Then, they literally wake up for something called the watch, where they stayed awake for an hour or two right in the middle of the night. After that, back to sleep for a second sleep of 4 hours until dawn. This wasn't insomnia, guys. This was normal. This is how every single human on the planet slept for thousands of years. And what is so incredibly fascinating is the historical medical advice from the 1500s about this specific waking period. Like, what did people even do? Well, everything. One French doctor highly recommended couples conceive children during this window. People would go visit their neighbors in the pitch black, they'd sit and interpret their fresh dreams, or they just lay in bed and think. There was even a doctor's manual that advised patients the absolute best time to study and reflect was during the watch, simply because the mind was totally calm and the world was utterly still. Which brings us to section 4, the biology of darkness. Because this two-phase sleep wasn't just some quirky cultural trend. It turns out this is a completely dormant biological program wired deep into the physical makeup of every single one of us. To prove it, psychiatrist Thomas Ware ran a totally fascinating experiment back in 1992 at the National Institute of Mental Health. He took a group of volunteers and literally completely removed all artificial light from their lives for an entire month. He gave them 14 hours of total darkness every single night, exactly like our ancient ancestors would have had. And the results? Within just a few weeks, every single person naturally reverted right back to that ancient biphasic sleep rhythm. 4 hours of sleep, a couple hours of quiet wakefulness, and then 4 more hours of sleep. Nobody told them to do it. Their bodies just remembered. But here is the craziest part. During that waking period, right in the middle of the night, the biological markers they measured were staggering. We found elevated levels of prolactin, which is the exact same hormone your brain releases during deep meditation. The participants all described feeling this incredibly peaceful, deeply reflective mindset. So this wasn't just some random gap in their sleep. It was a completely distinct state of human consciousness, a state that, honestly, most modern humans have literally never experienced. Section 5. The invention of insomnia. So, if this two-part sleep is totally natural, biologically wired into our brains, and profoundly peaceful, what exactly destroyed it? Well, the rapid assassination of the night really comes down to one simple thing: light. In the 1600s, cities like Paris started installing street lamps to cut down on crime, so the night slowly became something you could actually navigate. Then the 1800s roll around, bringing us cheaper candles and gas lamps. And then the absolute killing blow. In 1879, Thomas Edison commercializes the electric light bulb. In just a few short generations, artificial light utterly and completely conquered 300,000 years of darkness. Just like that. And to truly grasp how radically our mindset flipped, just look at the origin of the word curfew. It comes from the French phrase couvre-feu, which literally means cover fire. Back in medieval towns, a bell would ring to signal everyone to put out their fires. And it wasn't just about safety, it was because the night was supposed to be dark. The night belonged to the supernatural and to criminals. Being out and about without a lantern was super suspicious, sometimes even illegal. We used to fear the night in a way that is basically impossible for us to fathom today. And then we just flooded the whole thing with light and called it progress. So here is the absolute crucial point you need to take away from this explainer. Today, modern humans are exposed to an average of 7 to 8 hours of artificial light after the sun goes down. And this light, especially that harsh blue light blasting from our ever-present screens, it directly tricks our brains into thinking the sun is still up. It violently suppresses our natural melatonin production. It delays our sleep hormones, and it completely fragments a perfectly tuned circadian rhythm that literally took millions of years to evolve. But the power of that ancient rhythm, it is incredibly resilient. Researchers have found that if you just go camping for one single week with absolutely zero artificial light, it is enough to reset your natural melatonin cycles by nearly 2 whole hours. In just 7 days, your body drops all its modern programming, and 300,000 years of evolutionary history just roars right back, producing melatonin exactly at sunset instead of hours and hours later. Which leads us to the ultimate paradigm shift here. What if insomnia isn't actually a disorder at all? We treat it like this massive medical issue, but what if waking up at 2 a.m. and lying awake in the dark isn't a biological malfunction? What if it's simply an ancient evolutionary echo of your body remembering exactly what it was built to do? What if it's just craving that lost phase of quiet, reflective consciousness? As we wrap up, I really want you to just process this. We traded the Milky Way and our quiet reflection for a light switch. For thousands of generations, we lived in a darkness so absolute that the entire galaxy was just our night sky. We told stories around the fire that literally built human civilization, and we naturally experienced this calm, meditative state of consciousness that is now practically extinct. We traded all of that profound, natural rhythm for modern convenience. And the wildest part of the whole thing, most of us never even knew it was gone. So the next time you wake up at 2 a.m. and blindly reach for your phone, ask yourself, are you actually suffering from a modern sleep disorder, or is your body just begging you to remember who you really are?